Hi. I was gonna talk about something completely different this week, but then they did in fact put out the trailer for the new Wicked movie. I fear that's all I'm gonna be able to talk about until November. I won't be covering any other subjects. Thank you. I'm obviously very excited. I'm not really sure where to put them for the video. Aren't they adorable? What do you think? Should they play piano? That's kind of fun. There we go. Yes, they put out the new Wicked trailer, and I have thoughts, I have feelings. If you're not familiar, Wicked is a Broadway musical that they are in the process of adapting into 2 separate films. They took the first act and made it into the first movie, which came out in November of last year, and they're turning the second act into the second movie, which is coming out this coming November. And the trailer for the second movie just dropped, and so we're gonna talk about it. But I will say, unfortunately, I don't think a trailer analysis and predictions video is very fun on this subject specifically. If I don't do spoilers, sorry. I will say I have no insider knowledge on the film, so I do not know how close they are sticking to the source material, but that's part of the fun. That's part of what I want to look at today. I want to watch the trailer, I want to dive into what we see here, and I want to talk about what some of my predictions are. And the fact of the matter is, I know in theory what happens in this movie because I know what happens in the second act of the show. And I think it's way more fun to analyze it from that perspective. And so if you're not familiar with the musical and you don't want the movie spoiled, I'm sorry. It's not going to be the video for you. I do apologize. I wrote a no spoiler script, but it was pretty much blank. So I'm sorry, but we'll see you in the next one. The other quick disclaimer is I'm not going to be showing the whole trailer. I don't want to get copyright claimed. So just to be safe, I'm going to mostly be speaking to screenshots. And when there is a moment that I have to show the movement to show what I mean, then I'll show an actual clip from the trailer, just in case. Because I think if I put the whole trailer in the video, I would probably get struck, unfortunately. So the trailer starts with Glinda in a very luxurious looking apartment wearing a dress that looks suspiciously like a wedding dress. This is already a deviation from the stage musical. So right away we're seeing they are not going to exactly follow the stage musical, which is a big deal because in the first film they basically did. They deviated very little from the story and they mostly just dove deeper into the various things that happened. So instead of creating new plot, they just expanded upon the plot that was there. Right away, this first clip, I feel like we're supposed to get the message that that's not necessarily going to be true for this film, which makes sense, and that was a lot of people's theory. The first act of Wicked has 11 songs in it and is about an hour and a half, whereas the second act has 6 songs in it and is only 45 minutes, which is pretty standard for Broadway musicals. The second act tends to be a lot shorter and also tends to have less songs because they tend to be shorter. So it's not abnormal for this to be true for the stage show, but if they are to expand it into presumably a 2 to 2.5 hour movie, then they are definitely going to have to expand upon basically everything that happens, if not add scenes. And so with this very first clip, we are getting confirmation that I'm like triple checking because I'm like so nervous that I'm forgetting something. I could stand corrected, but I do believe from everything that I'm reading and from my own memory that right in this very first shot, they want to establish, hey, we added scenes. Second act is shorter, we had to add scenes. So then Glinda runs outside onto a very luxurious patio that just happens to be detailed in pink and green. And she says, "Elphaba Throp, I know you're out there, come in before the monkeys spot you." This also, per my memory, and again, watch my recollection page is awful, but I am also pretty sure that this does not happen in the stage show. Not only is it interesting that they're basically right up front saying, hey, we're deviating from the source material in a way that we didn't really with the original film, the original, like the first Wicked they put out in November, but it's especially interesting showing that it appears as though they are actually going to have some sort of wedding between Fiyero and Glinda. Now, if you are not familiar, I am gonna like be breaking down the plot a little bit just in case somebody's watching it because they don't care about spoilers, but they don't know. So right at the beginning of the second act of the show, Glinda and Madame Morrible tell a whole made-up story to the people of Oz about what actually happened that day and claim that the wizard was trying to promote Glinda to be his magic grand vizier, chief of staff essentially, and that Elphaba was really jealous, and so she sprung out of hiding, stole the grimoire, cursed all the monkeys, and then flew off. Obviously, we know this to not be true, as does Fiyero, who's pretty mad with this fake version of events that they're spreading to everybody, but he finds out that Glinda has decided to just announce to everybody that they're engaged, and she doesn't even ask him, she just tells everybody that they're engaged. And so he's pretty upset about this too, and eventually ends up storming off when he overhears somebody say, "I've heard her soul is so unclean, pure water would melt her," talking about Elphaba, and he just can't handle this and kind of storms off, right? Fiyero does end up agreeing to marry Glinda because it's what would make her happy, but does end up following Elphaba instead and essentially leaving Glinda for Elphaba. And so there are some people who are theorizing that he is either going to leave her at the altar, or they will have actually married, and maybe the wedding brings Elphaba out of hiding at some point. My theory, at some point in the second act, Elphaba returns to the Emerald City of her own accord to free the monkey servants of the wizard, the ones that she created at the end of the first act, and ends up getting captured by the wizard, and they have like a whole interaction and whatever. Now, my theory is that they wanted to give her more of a reason to come back to the Emerald City. So potentially beyond just freeing the monkeys, maybe they're having a wedding with Glinda and Fiyero, and this bothers Elphaba because she has feelings for Fiyero, or maybe she wants to wish Glinda well on her wedding night, whatever it might be. And maybe this is what causes Elphaba to come back to the Emerald City, and then that's how she ends up interacting with the wizard. Because that feels like a simple thing they could add that does not really feel like a huge deviation from the original plot, but would just add story to expand it out a little bit and give more of a justification for why Elphaba does this, even though it means she might get captured, because she does end up getting captured, right? Now, you might be thinking, why would they add stuff just to add stuff? This is so stupid. I don't know. The second act, I saw the stage show a few months ago. That's where I got this shirt from the tour. And that second act moves really fast. I don't think it's a bad thing to expand it out a little bit and let it breathe. And I don't necessarily hate the idea of adding stuff like this to give Elphaba a reason to come back to Oz in this scenario. It's harmless in my opinion. So it is a deviation from the musical, and it is adding plot where it wasn't considered necessary for the musical, I guess, but neither of these things really bother me. But I'm really a lover of this story. You guys, like, why would I say no to more Wicked? You know what I mean? Why would I say no to more Wicked? So I don't hate this. I don't know that this is actually how they're going to leverage this wedding though. So I guess they could do it in a way that I think is silly. But I think if they were to do it in this way, I don't think that would bother me personally. So then we see Elphaba in presumably her castle where she's been living, which as you can see is not really a castle. It's sort of like a tree house. This is also a slight deviation. In the musical, she goes to a castle. In the original Wizard of Oz, she's in a castle when they come and find her. And the musical was based off of a book. And I've heard that in the book, they go a lot more in depth into where the castle is, why Elphaba goes there, and like why she's there when Dorothy shows up and stuff like that, and why she makes that her hideout. There were some theories that some of what they were going to expand about this movie was stuff like that, and they were going to show Elphaba going to the castle, why she goes there, all of that, more from the book than from the musical. Interestingly enough, this image looks more like a treehouse than it does a castle, which maybe implies that she forms it with her magic. The other thing that's important about this is we start to hear the chant that's in the beginning of the song No Good Deed. It's my favorite song from the show. I am so incredibly excited to have a Cynthia Erivo version of No Good Deed. I can't even begin to tell you. That's literally what I'm most excited about for this film. I genuinely cannot wait. I'm going to be sobbing in the theater, and none of you can judge me, and none of you can take that away from me. It's like my favorite song of all time. I love that song. Do not think anyone is prepared for the spiritual experience we are all about to have in these theaters. When she hits that Fiyero note, oh my god, I'm gonna die. I'm literally just gonna combust, I think. I actually don't think I'm going to survive that moment. The thing that's really cool about this, though, that I actually really love, is the chant has no music behind it. In the stage show, when she's doing this chant, it's her casting a spell on Fiyero because he's been captured. And so she's trying to cast the spell that will make him immune to torture, and she accidentally turns him into the Scarecrow. Yes, that is correct. Elphaba is inadvertently responsible for the Tin Man, the Cowardly Lion, and the Scarecrow. Bach becomes the Tin Man, and the Cowardly Lion is the lion cub from the first act, and Fiyero becomes the Scarecrow. The chant she's doing at the beginning of the song is inadvertently turning Fiyero into the Scarecrow. She's just trying to make him immune to torture, essentially. But the chant in the musical has music behind it, and the chant here that they play us does not have any music behind it. And it sounds so cool, and I really, really hope that that is true to how it is in the movie. and that they actually have her sing that part without any music behind it, because I didn't even know that I wanted that until I heard it, and now I want it really bad. Then we see the Beware the Wicked Witch poster in Munchkinland. This is important strictly because it connects us back to the first film. So this partially just connects us back to film 1, and also just partially shows us that the Munchkins and the people of Oz have really turned on elphaba, and they believe her to be the Wicked Witch. Then we have a shot of Glinda somewhat intensely putting on her Glinda crown. This is a very emotionally loaded moment, and also something that isn't from the stage musical, really. We don't see her get into this outfit in the stage musical. We don't see her put the crown on. This also connects back to the No One Mourns the Wicked scene. Wicked is one of those stories that starts at the end and then flashes back to the beginning and gets you back to that point. So at the beginning of the first movie, we're seeing where they're all celebrating that the Wicked Witch is dead, and then we're seeing Glinda in this outfit. So I don't know if they threw this clip in here just to further connect that, but we know that this is at the very least near, if not after, Glinda believes that elphaba has actually died, because at the end of the show, Glinda does believe elphaba and Fiyero both to be dead, and she never finds out that they both actually survived the events of the show and just left Oz. The look on her face is very emotionally loaded here, and it could be one of two things. This could happen after elphaba's death and be her preparing to go out to talk to the Munchkins, and so the emotion on her face, I mean, she's actually pretty deadpan in the screenshot I took, but if you watch the actual clip, it is emotionally loaded. You guys know I'm a Glinda hater, and that's a real point of contention between me and some of you, and I have to say that I have read every single comment under that video I made, and nobody has changed my mind. I'm sorry, I stand 10 toes down on all of the points I made in that video. I still feel the exact same way I did before. And for all of you saying that deep down she was trying to tear apart the wizard's government from the inside out, I want you to find a bootleg of the stage show and find where exactly in the source material you are getting that. You can't just make stuff up. Pull from the show. I will debate whether or not you want to forgive Glinda for what she's done, because a lot of people were somewhat trying to make her more sympathetic, but I will not accept that she was secretly trying to tear apart the wizard's government, because there's nothing to support that. Nothing to support that. I rewatched the stage show a few months ago when it was in town, and buddy, I did not see anything to imply that anywhere. But one of the things that I did see in the stage show that made me feel vindicated was that there is a moment where Madame Morrible fully, with her whole chest, says everything that I said about Glinda in my video in one single line. And normally I'm very annoyed when a character just states the theme out loud in the show. I don't normally like that sort of hand-holding and spoon-feeding in a message, but based off of the reaction to my video talking about why I don't like Glinda, I'm starting to think some people do need that tier of hand-holding, and it's somewhat concerning. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to people, I just genuinely, watching the show again, could not believe some of the defenses that I was seeing, and some of the people arguing with me about what the theme and the message of the show is and what the purpose of these characters are. If I can find a clip in a bootleg, I'll include it.
Now you listen to me, Missy. The rest of us may have fallen for this anti-good routine, but I know better. You wanted this from the beginning. Now you're getting what you wanted. So smile and wave and shut up.
That's literally exactly what I said about her. Like, it's stated out loud in the show. It's in the show. And to be fair, Madame Morrible saying that to her is the beginning of her change of heart. Like, it's being called out like that that makes her go, oh, you're right, and I probably shouldn't be that way. But I said in my video, I said her having a change of heart at the end does not change the fact that overarchingly throughout the show, she's one of the bad guys. She's in with the bad guys. And what I was saying about how the message of the show is supposed to be about the perception of good and evil versus the reality of it, that's what I'm talking about. And it's explicitly stated by Madame Morrible. Out loud. It's a line in the show. So if everybody's saying she didn't have selfish motivations, argue with Madame Morrible. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. And I know that for most people, you see the show once and you just walk away with the message. But the vehemence with which some people defend this woman right here, it's scary to me. It's genuinely scary. That is the only video that I have on this whole entire channel that the hate actually bothers me. I don't really care if people think I'm stupid. I care that there are so many people out there who genuinely seem okay with people behaving the way that Glinda does throughout the story, who say that her doing all of that does not make her a bad person. So all of that to say, the other thing that could be happening to emotionally set up this very loaded look in her own eyes, putting on the crown, is this could be immediately after Madame Morrible says that line to her. They could literally have gotten in that fight right before this moment, and then Glinda puts on the crown. And this is the look she's giving herself. And it's her kind of accepting the demon that she had to become this. So this is either right after she finds out that Elphaba is dead, or this is right after Madame Morrible called her out for all of her BS, and she's kind of dealing with that, and that's what this look is. I don't know which it is, but those are my two theories. Then we see the flying monkeys and Madame Morrible creating the twister. I don't really think there's much to analyze here. We know the flying monkeys are there. I'm looking at this clip to see if there's anything I can call out, but we know that Madame Morrible's main claim to fame as a sorceress is her ability to control the weather, and one of the things that she does in the second act is Glinda suggests to pull Elphaba out of hiding, that they convince her that her sister's in danger or is dead or something like that, and that would pull her out of hiding. And Madame Morrible and the wizard are like, Elphaba won't fall for a trick, we have to kill her sister for real. So Glinda didn't actually kill Elphaba's sister, but she's heavily involved in the chain of events that ends up killing Elphaba's sister. And again, this is in an attempt to draw Elphaba out of hiding, and then Madame Morrible draws up a twister and the house falls on Nessa. That house is the one that Dorothy was in. So this is what kicks off Wizard of Oz. So after this point in time, the events of what's going on in the show match up to what's going on in the Wizard of Oz, and they reference it a lot. So then we get a pretty overt line about Prince Fiero and his guards. I'm not even sure this line is in the movie. I'm wondering if this is just in the trailer to like let people know that that's what's going on here. But in the beginning of the second act, Fiero is the captain of the guard, and he is hunting down Elphaba, but he's looking for her for selfish reasons. He does not want to find her for the wizard. He wants to find her because he's in love with her. And eventually, when Elphaba shows up and ends up escaping, I can't remember if he helps her escape or not. I know he's why she gets away the second time she's facing the guards. I honestly don't remember if he saves her or just runs off with her. He ends up running off with her to be with her, and he leaves Glinda. So we're just establishing here that Fiero is captain of the guards. Then we see Fiero and Elphaba in the woods, and he's pointing a gun at Elphaba. This is burying the lead. In this scene, he helps Elphaba escape. So we know the pointing the gun at her is just to kind of fool the guards around him, and then he'll essentially turn on the other guards to allow her to escape in this situation. Then we see the wizard using some of his contraptions. I assume that this is for Wonderful, which is my least favorite song in the whole show, but that's the wizard's whole song and dance. That's actually his main solo. He has Sentimental Man in the first act, but Wonderful is really thought of as his big song, and it's him explaining to Elphaba how he ended up in this position in an attempt to convince her to join him and join forces, which is what he still wants. Because Elphaba's so powerful, like, he still wants access to her magic. So he tries to convince her by kind of telling her this story, and he almost manages to, but then she stumbles across Dr. Dillamond and he cannot speak anymore. If you remember, part of what they were doing is rendering the animals incapable of speech. So she finds Dr. Dillamond in a cage and he's completely lost his voice and he can't speak. And she's like, oh no, wait, you are evil. I don't want to join you. And she runs off. So that's what I think this scene is from. So then there's this bizarre moment where Elphaba is like petting a yellow brick. I don't know why she's doing this. Like, I don't know what the context of this moment is within the whole show. I don't know what this moment's gonna be about. The only thing I could think of is maybe this is like a labor camp. Maybe the animals are being put to work to create these yellow bricks for the yellow brick road. That could be kind of a fun detail. That could, well, okay, it's not fun that they have a labor camp. I don't mean it in that way. I mean, so it is kind of brushed over that she has been flying around trying to free all of the animals from their enslavement. And so one of my theories is that we are going to get a deeper dive into that, because in the show they just kind of reference it and we never actually see it except for when she shows up to free the monkeys from Oz. So I wonder if this is like a place in which animals are enslaved and she's there to free them, and it's to create these yellow bricks. And I use the word fun just to mean that it would be a fun tie-in back to Wizard of Oz, because we know that the wizard builds the yellow brick road between the events of Act 1 and act 2, but to tie in this detail of like how he does it and connecting it back to the horrificness of the government that he's running, I think would be really smart and really cool. So I am hoping that that's what these bricks are for, but that is a leap. That is a leap. You want to talk about jumping to conclusions? I leapt easily over the Grand Canyon with my conclusion on that one. We're literally just watching elphaba pet a brick, so I could be incredibly wrong about that. That's the only thing I could think of that would make a pile of bricks relevant instead of like them actually in the road. I don't know, we'll see. Then, and this is also really weird, we see Glinda in another outfit in Munchkinland, but wearing the Glinda crown. Now, there is a lot of the plot of the second act where Glinda is wearing her dress from No One Mourns the Wicked. So she's wearing that dress for a lot of the events of the second act. Because they don't have that many costumes in stage shows usually, or they certainly don't have as many as they have in a film, there's very many days that pass in the time where Glinda is wearing the No One Mourns the Wicked dress in the show. And so I think this is just another version of the Glinda as the Good Witch outfit, because in the film they can afford to have a bunch of different outfits and have her changing and all of that in a way that they just wouldn't do in a musical. We're gonna talk about Glinda's appearances in the trailer because I'm really fascinated. I can't believe we're only a minute in. I've been filming for an hour. I just talked for an hour about the first minute of the Wicked trailer. Oh my god, I'm sick. I have an illness. Oh, I have Wicked disease. And honestly, I don't want to be cured. God forbid a girl have hobbies, okay? If you're watching this still, then you're just as big a fan as I am, let's be real. Oh, that's what she's looking at. Okay, right. I forgot. I said I don't know what she's looking at. I do know what she's looking at. She's looking at elphaba carving into the clouds our wizard lies. This further supports my theory that I brought up earlier, that we are going to get more of a deep dive into elphaba attempting to help the animals. We know it is referenced that she keeps painting in the sky that the wizard lies, but they never show it in the stage show. So obviously they at the very least show this in passing in the film because it's in the trailer. And so I think this further supports that some of that extra time that we are going to get is elphaba trying to free the animals. Oh my god, you guys, I think I'm right about the labor camp. Oh my god, how did I do that? That's crazy. I gotta be honest with you guys, I'm doing this live. I'm just watching the trailer and analyzing it as we go. I watched the trailer a few times earlier, but I didn't go super in depth. I just thought I'd turn on the camera and see what I thought of each still. So I've been doing this kind of live, and now that I'm seeing this, I'm like, oh damn, I'm 100% right about that. I can't believe I got all of that from her petting a brick. I scare myself sometimes. But yeah, so I think the building of the yellow brick road is going to end up being one of the things that the enslaved animals are doing. And so I think this even further supports that some of the extra time we're going to get in this film that we don't get in the show is elphaba saving the animals. Oh, she lands and she has a very dramatic and determined look on her face. Interestingly, this is the first that we see elphaba's face in the trailer. We are a minute in, and we have not seen her face until now. I don't know if that's important or relevant or if it just happened to be that way. I just thought I'd point it out. Then we see Glinda wearing her new Glinda dress with the frilly things. It's the same dress I think that she's wearing in the other shot where she sees the Our Wizard Lies thing. And then we see an angry mob and we hear Glinda's voice saying, elphaba, they're coming for you. This also supports a theory I hadn't presented yet. I was going to get into when I talked about the music. But I don't know, I probably should have scripted this out in hindsight, but I just got too excited. I just wanted to sit down and talk to you, you know what I mean? One of my theories with the music, I think they could expand on a lot of the songs in the act. The beginning of the act is a reprise of No One Mourns the Wicked, but it's roped into a song called Thank Goodness, which is the song where Glinda and Madame Morrible make up the whole story about elphaba, and then they announce Fiyero and Glinda's engagement, but the whole song on the soundtrack is just called Thank Goodness, and it's really long. So I think they might separate out the reprise of No One Mourns the Wicked into its own song and call us like Save Us from the Wicked or something like that. And they'll all sing a whole song about that. And then we might have a whole entire song that is an expansion of the Madame Morrible part where she's explaining all of that will be considered its own song and it might be extended. And then we will have Thank Goodness as its whole own entire song. Because even just that alone would add easily 10-15 minutes to the movie and make all of that feel significantly less rushed. And so the announcement of their engagement might not be at the same time as us hearing the lies from Madame Morrible about what happened with Glinda and elphaba and the wizard. I think the fact that we see Glinda in this outfit and we see the Our Wizard Lies in the sky and then we see her in the same outfit looking out at the angry mob, I said all of that to explain why I don't think this is March of the Witch Hunters, because March of the Witch Hunters is a song that is sung way later in the show, that is people trying to like hunt and kill elphaba, that is very, very short, that I also think could be just expanded into the length of a normal song, and probably will be. This is just a theory, I could be so wrong, but I theorize that the opening of this film is going to be Save Us from the Wicked, the split out reprise of No One Mourns the Wicked that starts, thank goodness, in the soundtrack of the stage musical. I hope what I'm saying is making sense. I think they'll split that part out, make it its whole own song, and that's going to be the opening. I think it will actually literally open on Glinda visiting the Munchkins in this outfit, and they're going to be like, oh my god, we love you, oh my god, Glinda, and they're going to say something to establish that years have passed, and they're going to say something else to talk about her being so high up in the government, whatever, and then the Our Wizard Lies will get painted in the sky, and that's when the entr'acte is going to kick in. But she's wearing the same outfit in front of this mob that she was wearing when she was out where Elphaba is painting Our Wizard Lies in the sky. So I feel like we're going to open on, again, almost like an edgy, no music in the background, just like Glinda interacting, edgy. I mean, her interacting with the Munchkins isn't edgy, but you get what I'm saying. It's an edgy start to a movie musical where there's no actual music playing and it's just her interacting with everybody. And it's when the Our Wizard Lies happens in the sky that dramatic entr'acte kicks in, and that's what's going to lead into what they'll call Save Us from the Wicked, which is going to be a full reprise of No One Mourns the Wicked that breaks down what Elphaba's been up to saving the animals, and somehow somewhere in there involves Madame Morrible with this whole lie story about Elphaba and this mob. That's my theory. But I guess it could also be March of the Witch Hunters. It could be. But okay, so this is the weird thing. So they have Glinda saying, Elphaba, they're coming for you. And then For Good starts, and we see Glinda walking into what appears to be the same room that her and Elphaba ran to and kind of destroyed when they were escaping the guards. For Good is the big farewell friendship song between Glinda and Elphaba, but we get Glinda in the distance staring forlornly into this room that was eventually where Elphaba escapes from, like up at the top, and Glinda decides to stay behind, and we see her there in the dress that she's wearing in No One Mourns the Wicked. So we know that in time this moment is near when she goes to see Elphaba. And it's also the same outfit that she puts that crown on in, and she doesn't have the crown on in this shot. So that kind of further supports that the crown part and her looking emotional is because she's found out Elphaba dies. She has the grimoire. Why does she have the grimoire? Do they have the grimoire back at this point? Why does she have the grimoire? Oh, here, it even says in the Wikipedia. But Morrible reminds Glinda that she has been complicit in all of Morrible and the Wizard's plans to further her own goal of becoming a powerful figure in Oz. The wicked Wikipedia doesn't even agree with those of you who defend her and say she wasn't being selfish. I wonder if this is after she thinks Elphaba is dead. Because why does she have the grimoire? Because Elphaba has, I just reread the plot here, and I believe that Elphaba, because she casts the spell on Fiyero, but she doesn't leave the castle. Yeah, I don't think they would have the grimoire at this point because she had to cast a spell out of it to try and save Fiyero. So I imagine that this moment with Glinda is after she thinks Elphaba has died. And now she's here with the grimoire thinking of her friend. So I think this is probably during the finale song. And they could potentially expand that song and give her more. Like, this could be, I wonder if they're gonna do that. I wonder if they'll give her kind of a song after For Good to really cement everything in place about how she feels about all of it, and then we'll see her put the crown on, and then we'll see her fly to Munchkinland to kick off the events of No One Mourns the Wicked, and we've completed the circle of the show. I wonder if that's what's happening here. Or they will just take the finale and expand it, and this will be happening during some of that finale music that we hear. Oh, you know what I bet they'll do? Because one of the things I noticed when I was watching the live show, just furthering my point that Glinda is the wicked one and that's the message we're supposed to walk away with, even though she has a change of heart, I know, is that after, basically what happens is she goes and she sees Elphaba to warn her that danger is coming, and then they have their whole farewell and they sing For Good, and then Elphaba tells Glinda to hide, and then they put up a big thing that just makes everything shadows, and they do a whole almost like shadow puppet thing of elphaba melting. It's not actually puppets though, it's just like it's the shadows of the people on the big thing. That's what you're seeing from the audience, and it's elphaba melting, so we don't actually see what happens, and neither does Glinda. And she's sitting under like a grate, like she's hidden in the floor, and the light's coming down through the grate illuminating her, so she's the only thing really illuminated on the stage. And then there's this scene, this very intense scene of elphaba melting, and after she melts, what you hear very quietly is "No one mourns the wicked," as Glinda's sitting in the spotlight, and she's the only thing illuminated on stage, and you're hearing very quietly "No one mourns the wicked." They could not have spoon-fed it to the people anymore. The comments under that video really stressed me out, you guys, can you tell? So anyway, I wonder if that's what that's gonna be. Instead of playing "No one mourns the wicked" softly while she's under the floor while elphaba's dying, I wonder if they're gonna play "No one mourns the wicked" while she's doing all of that wandering around, and there's gonna be the quieter, it's not like they're not fully doing "No one mourns the wicked," but it's like quieter "No one mourns the wicked." It's like soft and sad "No one mourns the wicked." And so I wonder if they're gonna do that, and I wonder if they'll call it a reprise and make it its whole own song, potentially. We see that elphaba still has the pamphlet from when she went to the Emerald City with Glinda that has the message from Glinda that says, "I hope you get all your heart desires," and it says from Galinda, because she's still going by Galinda at this point in time. What is that the table of contents to? Table of contents? Why does that say table of contents? That doesn't make any sense. This is supposed to be a pamphlet of her going to the Emerald City. Why would there be a table of contents? There's 2 pages. We're looking at 1 page. We're looking at an open thing. It says table of contents. Now I need to go back and watch the first movie and see what that is. Is that a clue? What does that say? Is that blurry for real, or do I just not have my glasses on? Anyway, we're just establishing elphaba misses Glinda too. We also have elphaba looking somewhat forlorn. I just think we haven't seen enough of her face in the trailer at this point, so maybe this is to further emphasize that she really misses Glinda, and this is why she has this stuff out and is looking at it. And here's the weird thing, okay? They did this in the first trailer too. They cut a ton to this shot of elphaba and Glinda because they look really cute. They look cutesy. They look friendly. This is from a scene that got cut for time from the first movie, if my understanding is correct. I believe there is a scene of Glinda and elphaba skipping around in a field that John M. Chu has talked about getting cut from the movie that he wished had made the final cut. I do not understand why they keep having this in the trailer. I guess we'll see if they flash back to it maybe in this movie. But this shot was in the first trailer too, and was it also in some emotional moments in the actual movie, or was it just in the trailer? I now can't remember. But every time I see the shot, I think to myself, why do they keep using this? Like, this scene was deleted. This never happens in the actual movie. So it's just like it's flashing back almost to something that they don't actually show happening, which I think is a little bit strange. So I don't know, maybe they'll flash back to it in this movie and maybe we'll actually see this scene in this second movie. I hope so, because it's been in both trailers, but this is just a friendship moment between the two of them. Yes. And Glinda says, "Think of what we can do together," which is the line that elphaba says to her during Defying Gravity, trying to convince Glinda to come with her. This is clearly in For Good just before it, because there's a moment just before they sing For Good where Glinda is now trying to convince elphaba to come back to Oz because Glinda's gonna oust the wizard and she'll support her and all of that, and elphaba basically tells her, "I can't, I'm limited. Just look at me, I'm limited, and just look at you, you could do all I couldn't have." Again, going back to our whole theme and whole point of the show. And so they essentially swap places, and Glinda is now asking elphaba to help her put the government back together and like put Oz back together in general, and elphaba is basically saying no, partially for her own benefit, partially at this point like being literally the only selfish thing she does in the whole show, but it is immediately after No Good Deed, so that makes sense, because No Good Deed is this big emotional moment where she basically says no good deed goes unpunished, and every time I try to do something good I get punished, so everybody's right, I'm gonna be truly wicked from here on out. Oh my god, I've never even realized this, but this even further supports my opinion about this show and these two characters, because hang on a minute, because elphaba has that moment where she says, "I'm wicked through and through," and the song is supposed to be her basically deciding not to be good anymore and to be wicked, and then her and Glinda swap places, and Glinda is now saying to her, "Come with me back to Oz and help me do good," and elphaba says no, and so they've switched the spots that they were in Defying Gravity, where elphaba is saying, "Come with me and try and do good," and Glinda says no. I didn't realize I could like realize new things about this musical, and yet here I am. Then we get more of the wedding scene, which shows us that this wedding somewhat actually happens. Some are theorizing whether or not Fiyero leaves her at the altar. Some are questioning whether or not they actually get married. In my opinion, we see light in the windows here. And so I do believe, given that it was nighttime and Glinda was wearing the same dress when she's talking to elphaba, that this is at least later in the evening. Now, whether or not Fiyero goes through with the wedding, I have no idea. But they either actually get married, and this is part of the plot and part of what draws elphaba back and everything I said already. Something I just realized, something I hadn't thought of earlier. What if elphaba realizes that the chaos of this royal wedding will allow her to free the monkeys? Maybe she had hesitated to come back to Oz because she didn't feel like she had a good opportunity to go for the monkeys. So she decides to use the chaos of the wedding to do that, and that happens kind of while they're doing the whole wedding part, and then Fiyero runs off with her. Does that make sense? Does that track? And so they never actually get married because the wedding is interrupted, and then he leaves Glinda at the altar for elphaba, but then elphaba wants to talk to Glinda because she misses her and feels bad maybe for disrupting the wedding and all of that, and wants to talk to her about Fiyero, who knows, and that's part of why she visits her. I don't know. So I don't know if the wedding actually goes through or not, but we see her walking down the aisle towards Fiyero, and it's clear from the trailer that they want us to believe that her and Fiyero do actually go through with the wedding. See, but then we see Fiyero riding off. We see him riding off and towards what looks like a castle from a cartoon movie. This CGI is not that good, I gotta be honest. I think that's Fiyero. And so I wonder if this is a clue. I wonder if he does leave her at the altar. And then we see the silver shoes. This is not Dorothy, I think this is Nessa. So if you're not familiar, in Wicked, they have the Tin Man, they have the lion, they have the scarecrow. However, they do not ever show Dorothy, nor do we have red shoes. We have silver shoes. And the silver shoes take the place of the red shoes from The Wizard of Oz. Why did they do that? Because The Wizard of Oz is IP. But they only show Dorothy's silhouette, I'm pretty sure. And so you never actually see her, and they made the shoes silver instead of red, but these are the ruby slippers, basically. And why they matter so much to elphaba is because she actually enchants them to be able to allow Nessa to walk. If you remember from the first movie, Nessa, her sister, is wheelchair bound. So she enchants the shoes so that Nessa can walk. I think this is Nessa's feet. I don't think this is Dorothy's feet. That's my theory. Okay, then we have this weird scene that I imagine is wonderful. I'll probably just put the clip in, to be honest, because they're like dancing. It's like elphaba and the wizard and Glinda dancing in a techno room that has the giant wizard face in the background. The only scene that this makes sense in any context is wonderful. Is Glinda wearing her wedding dress? Tries to free the monkeys, and she gets captured by the wizard, and that's when he sings Wonderful. And if Glinda was wearing the dress, then it would further support that happens during the wedding, but we cannot tell from this distance, or maybe I just can't tell without my glasses on. I will try to enhance this later. I don't know that we could know definitively, but this potentially could be her wedding dress, which supports what I was saying. This is during For Good. So that's where I was saying she says to her, oh, and she's not wearing the pink dress yet. Oh, that tells us a lot, doesn't it? She's not wearing the No One Mourns the Wicked dress. You guys, I think the pieces are coming together. I think she goes to do For Good, and then she puts the crown on. The emotionally loaded moment is probably that she thinks elphaba is dead, and she thinks the responsibility is all on her now to save Oz, to put back together the pieces of what the wizard left behind when she banished him. And because this is For Good, because they're sitting on the same broom swing that they were sitting on when she says, think of what we could do together, which I think is her trying to convince elphaba to come back to help her. Yeah, this is definitely during For Good. This is going to be them singing For Good, and I am going to be hysterically sobbing. If you wanted to know, I am going to be just like profusely crying during this part, and no one can take that away from me, and you guys aren't going to judge me. But that's what I think this is. Yeah, that's not the same dress. Where are they? Can we see where they are? This looks like an industrial factory or something. What is going on here? I guess this could be the castle, but it doesn't really, I mean, it looks certainly like it's under construction, but that might be part of why she was able to be there. I don't know. Oh, interesting. Wait a minute. The pieces are coming together. Let me screenshot. We have man on horse, we have flying monkeys, and we have what looks to be the ruins of a castle with up in the corner a little bit of tree. I wonder if The tree part that we've seen elphaba in is something she creates with her magic, but I wonder if she does it on top of this decrepit castle. And that's how we connect all this together, because I think this is Fiyero, and I think the flying monkeys are welcoming him to Elphaba's castle. They're not chasing him, I don't think. I think this is supposed to be a little bit burying the lead. I think you're supposed to think they're chasing him, but at this point in time, the flying monkeys work for elphaba. So then we see the wizard speaking through the wizard face to the 4 friends. I wonder if they got permission. They can't show Dorothy's face. I honestly think that would be a little bit of an insult to the original. I know that maybe sounds weird, but I don't think they should show Dorothy's face. I don't know if they're going to, but I don't think they should. But we see the wizard telling them to bring him the broom. So this is maybe establishing for people who aren't somehow familiar with the fact that this is a reference to Wizard of Oz, or maybe they know it is, but they don't realize that Dorothy and the story with the friends actually plays into all of this. We see Fiyero pointing a gun at elphaba again. Again, I think this is burying the lead. We know they end up together in the end, so I don't really know what the context of this is, because there was another scene where he was also pointing a gun at her, so that's a little bit strange. I don't know when he would have done that twice. It makes sense once, but not twice, so I don't know about all that. Oh yeah, that's when he moves the gun to point at the wizard. So that must be him helping her escape the does he do that to them twice? Does he fool them twice by pointing a gun at elphaba and then pointing it at someone else? Also, as much as I've insulted Jeff Goldblum, check out this incredible acting. Look at the look on his face. That absolutely is the bamboozlement that I think he would have on his face when Fiyero betrays him. And elphaba says, for a while there I thought you changed, and Fiyero says, I have, and then there's kind of a rush of animals escaping Oz. So this must be the moment after Wonderful? Is that when he breaks her out? Fiyero helps elphaba escape. That's what I thought. So this must be that part. And then we hear the line, it's time, and we see Glinda walking up to the bubble with a very determined look on her face. So I am officially saying that I think what happens is she witnesses elphaba die, and then she returns back to the Emerald City, has the Grimoire, wanders through some of her memories of elphaba, maybe sings a song about it, maybe just has No One Mourns the Wicked kind of playing in the background while she's doing it. Again, like the soft sort of version that happens in the finale at the end, then puts the crown on and is like determined to kind of alter the course of the land of Oz and make everybody less hateful and all of that. And this is her like walking to the bubble to then fly to Munchkin Land to tell them that the Wicked Witch of the West is dead, which is the kickoff of No One Warns the Wicked, which is what we saw at the very beginning of the first movie. That's my theory. Yeah, and we see her in the bubble too. Then we get the exchange. I don't think I need to break this down really, but we get the exchange between elphaba and Glinda where elphaba says, you're the only friend I've ever had, and Glinda said, and I've had so many friends, but only one that mattered. What did I say about the theme? What did I say about the theme? Well, and she's also wearing a completely different dress in this, and she has the Grimoire. Hang on a minute. They appear to be at a castle. Glinda has the Grimoire, but she is not wearing the dress that she is wearing when she is on the broom swing with elphaba when she says, think of what we could do together. So does she stay with elphaba for like a day or two? Or does she have this dress on when they're on the... I don't think she does. I can't figure everything out. Glinda has the Grimoire. She's at the castle, and they're having the exchange that they have right before they sing for good. But Glinda's wearing a different dress when they're on the broom swing. And I think that's when they're singing for good. Yeah, and then they hold hands, and Glinda is clearly not wearing the dress that she was wearing on the broom swing. Then we get flashes of elphaba with the monkeys. I think just to kind of have an action-packed sequence at the end. I didn't see anything in any of that really tells us anything, except it does appear to be at the castle that Fiyero was riding the horse to, but then that's not the same castle that he was riding into. What on earth? What is this castle gonna look like? Because there was the guy on the horse on the bridge, but then there was also a guy on a horse on different bridge, and they were going up to 2 different castles, and then she's in the woods with the flying monkeys following her. So what's that about? Does she have 2 castles? Then we get the title card. Then we have her calling her hat and her broom in that techno room, and then we get a line of her saying, I'm off to see the wizard, but it doesn't appear to be in the same like rainbow setting. I think again they're bearing the lead. I think they're trying to trick us into thinking she does the hat and the broom thing and then turns and says, I'm off to see the wizard. But I think that the rainbow background is when they're doing Wonderful, and so I imagine that's her getting her hat and her broom to say no F you and fly away. So I wonder what the I'm off to see the wizard part is about. I don't know. Is that during the day or at night? Yeah, it's daylight. I'm off to see the wizard. I wonder if she's, oh, is she telling Nessa that? Nessa Rose blames elphaba. Elphaba returns to the Emerald City. She goes to the Emerald City after, I bet you she's saying that to Nessa. That implies she intends to talk to the wizard, which I don't think canonically she does in the stage show. He's like waiting for her because he's expecting her. And she flies towards the camera, and then we get the date, November 21st. Catch me in the theater. Hopefully before then. I'm gonna try and swing another early screening. We're gonna see if I can do it. One day I'll break down for you guys how we did that. One day I'll tell you how we ended up getting into that screening. Okay, so that's the trailer. Those are my predictions. How do I feel? I don't know if you can tell, but I am very, very excited. That's gonna be all for me today, you guys. Let me know what you think. Are you excited? No matter what, I'm so excited. I'm gonna be sat. I hope I can figure out how to see it early again. We'll see. I didn't exactly get invited to that. I don't know if I can recreate the circumstances in which I saw it early last time, but I will try. If they want to invite me to the premiere, I would love that. But I don't think I'm a big enough YouTuber for that. But what do you guys think? Did you see the trailer? Are you excited? I truly actually cannot wait. I love you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!